The stars had never looked so bright and so indifferent. Captain Ava Thorne sat motionless in her acceleration couch, staring out at the swirling hyperspace tunnel beyond the viewport. The Concorde diplomatic cruiser Luminal Grace hummed with alien precision, its gravity field smooth, its air filtered with floral tones unfamiliar to any human biology. Yet it wasn't the sense or the gravity that made Ava feel out of place. It was the silence. The Concorde didn't chatter. Its people didn't fidget. They moved with a grace honed over millennia of peace, civilizations that hadn't fought a war in over 4,000 standard years. And they looked at humans like they were an evolutionary anomaly, an ancient species of apex predators, inexplicably still alive. Ava adjusted her collar, feeling the crisp edge of her navy blue UNED uniform brush against her neck. She was the first human military officer assigned as envoy to the Galactic Concorde. She wasn't supposed to make waves, just observe, report, and behave. The ship emerged from hyperspace with a silent shudder, and the view shifted. Outside, the Concorde capital world of Velthkar loomed, impossibly vast. It wasn't just a planet, it was a planetary-scale structure. Miles of metal crust encased the world, built in layers like the rings of a tree. Glistening towers soared toward orbit. Rings of satellites formed concentric halos, humming with data, power, and protocol. Ava whispered, "Well, shit." From the other seat, the alien liaison, a Lithari named Zephon, tilted his head, his translucent skin catching light like a living pearl. "Your exclamation indicates surprise. Is the scale of our hub world unexpected?" "It's like flying into a cathedral the size of Jupiter," Ava said. "No offense, but I thought the Concorde was bureaucratic. This looks like you built it to impress the gods." Zephon blinked. "We did." The shuttle detached, carrying Ava and the other delegates, 3 humans, flanked by Concorde security, down toward the surface. As the curved landscape filled the view, Ava took note of the architecture. Fluid, organic, and impossibly elegant. Nothing was built for war. No turrets, no bunkers, no planetary shields. They didn't expect to be attacked. They didn't believe they could be. When Ava stepped out onto the polished landing dais of Velthkar's central assembly spire, she felt every eye on her. The Concorde races stood in tight clusters, glittering in their ceremonial robes and ambient light jewelry. Tall Telsari, crystalline Arthari, serpentine Delphari. They watched the human delegates like zookeepers observing a lion enclosure. A few masked their curiosity. Most didn't bother. A chime echoed through the chamber, and the Grand Moderator, a 6-limbed being with a mirrored face and a floating mantle of colored gases, stepped forward. "Delegates of Soul," the voice echoed, amplified through ambient acoustics. "Welcome to the Unity Assembly. The Galactic Concorde acknowledges your civilization as a sentient, space-faring species under the Edict of Emergence. May this mark the beginning of your journey toward peace and wisdom." Ava nodded slightly, resisting the urge to salute. She had been trained in dozens of alien customs. Bowing too low was a sign of submission. Too short a nod implied sarcasm. She did the safe thing, looked straight ahead and stood still. Another human, Dr. Leslie Monroe, a cultural attaché from the UN, stepped forward with a pre-written speech. Ava only half listened. It was the usual diplomatic fluff. Mutual cooperation, the promise of cultural exchange, Earth's commitment to the principles of peaceful coexistence. But Ava's instincts prickled. As Monroe spoke, she caught whispers passing through the crowd, translated through her ear implant. Violent origin, primitive carbon warriors, carnivorous sentience, how quaint. Don't they burn hydrocarbons for power? Ava narrowed her eyes. She'd seen these looks before. She'd heard these tones. Back on Earth, they were the same voices that had called her father a madman for enlisting in the early Space Corps. She'd grown up on stories of the first Mars Wars, the orbital food riots, the asteroid sieges. Her family had bled for humanity's right to survive in space, and now they were the punchline of a galactic joke. After the ceremony, she found herself at a reception lavish, if understated. Transparent fruit glittered under silver lights. Floating orbs of taste-adjusted mist hung in the air. Ava ignored the food and stared up at the immense holoscreen displaying the Concorde's reach. Thousands of systems, all wrapped in peaceful trade and shared governance. They think we're cute, a voice said behind her. Ava turned to find Ensign Harker, one of her human companions, an engineer by trade, with a scar from a reactor explosion running down his cheek. They think we're relics, Ava said, like cavemen in spacesuits. Harker chuckled. Well, we are the only species that tried to weaponize a star. Twice. They think that makes us unstable, she replied. Or maybe dangerous enough to keep on a short leash, he said. They both fell silent. The Concorde, for all its wonders, had its own quiet, insidious hierarchies. Humanity hadn't been invited as equals. They were being observed, measured, classified. But Ava had read the reports. The Concorde was old. Peaceful, yes, but soft. Its ships hadn't fired in anger for generations. Its fleet drills were more ceremonial than tactical. Their AIs were bound by layers of ethical failsafes. Their soldiers didn't bleed. They mitigated. Ava doubted half of them had even seen real combat. So why now? Why reach out to Earth now? As if summoned by her thoughts, Zephon reappeared beside her. Captain Thorne, he said quietly, there is something I must show you. Privately, she followed him through corridors that shimmered with living light. They passed between security fields, through bioreactive doors, and into a chamber humming with gravitic dampeners. There, on a central pedestal, hovered a transmission array. It pulsed with energy Ava had never seen before. Something older, darker. A flickering image formed above it. A starfield, coordinates. Then a message translated for her benefit. We have returned. The silence is over. Submit or be erased. Ava's heart froze. Who sent this? She asked, voice low. Zephon's glow dimmed. They are called the Paxari, a species thought extinct. Ancient warlords. The last time they rose, it nearly destroyed half the Concorde. When did this come in? 2 cycles ago. It was dismissed. We believed it to be a hoax. Until yesterday. He touched a command crystal. A second projection unfolded planetary footage. A Concorde outpost vaporized by a lance of black light. No survivors. No warning. No defense. Zephon turned to her, voice trembling. We are not prepared, and our fleets are not designed for war. Your kind has a reputation. Ava stared at the footage, then back at him. You want humanity to fight your war. Zephon said nothing. She stepped forward, her voice cold as vacuum. You brought us here because you thought we were relics. Dangerous, but controllable. Now you want the beast out of its cage. Still silence. Ava's eyes burned. She could almost hear her ancestors, soldiers, engineers, rebels, rising behind her. She turned away from the projection. Tell your Concorde Council this, she said. Earth didn't ask to be invited, but now that we're here, we don't run from a fight. The council chamber of Velthkar had never seen such chaos. Captain Ava Thorne stood silently near the edge of the high amphitheater, beneath a gallery of suspended Concorde banners, each representing a member species of the Galactic Concorde. What had been the heart of diplomacy, trade, and deliberation for over 4 millennia had devolved into a storm of arguments, translated in real time through her neural implant into overlapping waves of panic, indignation, and fear. An isolated incident. No need to overreact. We should have prepared. They were never truly gone. Deploy fleets? We haven't fielded fleets in centuries. How did the humans get that transmission before we did? Ava resisted the urge to smirk. They hadn't received it before the Concorde. She'd simply been one of the few shown the truth. Zephon, her Lutheri liaison, stood beside her, unnervingly composed despite the eruption of tension across the chamber. The Paxari transmission had changed everything. The message had spread like wildfire across Concorde networks once verified, a rogue signal bearing the unmistakable energy signature of the ancient Paxari Empire, an entity believed dead for thousands of years. Their last recorded action had been the Battle of Sholretha's Tear, an apocalyptic event that left 3 star systems permanently sterilized and a 4th swallowed by a micro-black hole. Why didn't your Concorde act when you first received this? Ava whispered to Zephon, keeping her voice low. Zephon's luminous skin dulled slightly, his equivalent of shame. We thought it was a hoax. Our consensus-driven systems delayed analysis. Many feared panic. Others feared giving humans ammunition for militarization. Ava's brow twitched. So you hid it. We compartmentalized it, he corrected quickly, though without conviction. Inwardly, Ava cursed. Earth had clawed its way into the stars through necessity. It had survived its own extinction events, weathered plagues and wars, and turned a once-burning Earth into a green world again. But it had always fought, always adapted. That was what scared the Concord. And now, ironically, it might be what saves them. A heavy gong sounded, bringing the chorus of argument to a trembling halt. A being floated into the center of the council chamber, tall, robed, and wreathed in shimmering motes of energy. This was Varn Ethril, supreme arbiter of the Concord, a being elected every 300 cycles and revered as the embodiment of peace. Varn's voice rang out with the weight of unshakable diplomacy. The Pax Sorry signal has been authenticated. An attack on the outpost at Draelos Prime confirms its threat. 50,000 lives lost. No survivors. No demands. Only the message. Submit or be erased. A hush fell. Varn turned slowly in a circle, addressing all assembled. For 4 millennia, we have known peace. Our fleets decommissioned. Our weapons stored. We evolved beyond aggression. But this enemy is not of peace. It is a relic of destruction, designed for conquest, fueled by entropy. Ava leaned forward, studying the reactions. Some Concord delegates looked horrified. Others, skeptical. Some, most worryingly, looked indecisive. Varn continued. The Council must now choose. Shall we awaken our fleets and risk a war the likes of which we have forgotten? Or shall we negotiate? A long, pained silence followed. Ava couldn't take it anymore. She stepped forward. The gesture drew stunned murmurs across the chamber. Protocol did not permit envoys to speak during full assembly. Security AI pinged her identity tag. Zephon looked horrified. Captain Thorne, he began. She raised a hand. Let her speak, Varn said suddenly, voice curious. The species who burns suns and builds weapons from black holes wishes to address the council? Let her speak. Ava stepped into the lighted center of the chamber. Thousands of Concord delegates turned toward her, representatives of civilizations older than humanity's concept of agriculture. She exhaled slowly. You want to negotiate with the Pax Sorry? She began. You want to reason with beings whose last known act was the total annihilation of an inhabited star cluster? Her voice echoed, amplified now by the council systems. She didn't need to shout. You've built a beautiful empire here. Peaceful, elegant. But you've mistaken the absence of violence for the death of conflict. You assumed everyone would evolve the way you did. That diplomacy would become the universal constant. It won't. A flicker of red light signaled a delegate preparing a rebuttal, but Ava pressed on. Humans came from a planet that tried to kill us every day. Storms, predators, disease. We didn't adapt because it was beautiful. We adapted because we had to. We endured. We fought. We won. And now we're here, barely invited, barely respected, because deep down, you know what we are. Another pause. You didn't call us to this council because of our ethics. You called us because there's something coming that terrifies you. And you want the apex predator on your side. Gasps, shouts, indignant flashes of bioluminescent outrage across the chamber. Varn raised a hand. Silence returned. You speak plainly, human, the arbiter said, brutally. Do you propose we entrust your kind with the defense of the Concord? Ava looked him dead in the mirrored eyes. No. I propose you let us help you survive. Another delegate stood Zirith Kar, of the crystalline Arthari. Her voice chimed like bells. How can we trust humans not to exploit this war? To gain power while the rest of us bleed? Ava didn't flinch. Because if we lose this war, you won't have anything left to worry about. And if we win, then maybe you'll finally understand why you need us. The chamber dissolved into furious debate. Delegates argued across languages, across cultures, across evolutionary paths. But the idea had been planted. The seeds of fear, of desperation, and maybe, just maybe, of reluctant hope. Later, in a private chamber, Ava faced Zephon again. He looked shaken, but composed. You risked diplomatic expulsion, he said. That speech needed to be said. He nodded after a moment. You understand war too well. That frightens them. It should. The Pax Sorry aren't coming to debate treaties. They're coming to conquer. Zephon held up a data pulse. a tiny sphere that pulsed with Concord metadata. "This is your authorization," he said. "You have been granted provisional command of a task force. Multi-species. Experimental. Not officially military yet." Ava took the sphere. "And Earth will be notified. Your high command is eager." Of course they were. Earth's generals had seen this coming. Now, humanity had the green light to operate under Concord sanction. They were no longer the backwater species with sticks and nukes. They were now the spearhead of resistance. As Ava exited the chamber, she paused on a balcony overlooking the artificial oceans of Velthkar. The stars shimmered above. She tapped her neural comms. "Thorn to Earth. Task Force Alpha is a go. We're moving to defensive readiness. Request deployment of the Indomitable, Ash March, and Black Veil. All human assets, full gear." The response came quickly. "Orders confirmed, Captain. May God help whatever's coming." Ava smiled faintly. "No God's coming this time," she said. "Just us." The Galactic Concord's most advanced sensors had failed spectacularly. Captain Ava Thorne stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her fingers resting lightly on the tactical console, eyes fixed on the flickering starfield ahead. The ship's hull groaned softly as the human dreadnought cut through the artificial atmosphere of Velthkar's orbit, its dark, angular frame a stark contrast to the shimmering elegance of the Concord fleet vessels that surrounded it. This was war, but it looked nothing like the history books. The Paxari had returned like ghosts. No fleet, no massive armadas, no thunderous bombardments, just silent shadows. 2 standard cycles ago, the first Concord outpost on Dralos Prime had gone dark. Then, 3 more vanished without warning. Each disappearance was accompanied by a strange energy signature. Black spikes of radiation unlike any recorded weapon. A sort of entropy lance that dissolved matter at the molecular level. Ava studied the holographic display. The Paxari strike seemed surgical, devastating, and impossibly precise. The Concord's archaic war machines, dormant for centuries, had been no match. Their automated defenses had been overwhelmed before the alarm could even sound. "We're looking at guerrilla warfare on a cosmic scale," muttered Commander Harker, the engineer with the reactor scar, now serving as Ava's second in command. "No traditional fleet engagements, no open battle lines." The Paxari hit and vanished like phantoms. Ava nodded. "Our sensors don't detect them until after they've struck. They don't even seem to leave wreckage. Like they erase everything: matter, energy, memories." Her voice carried a chill that spread through the bridge crew. The Indomitable's chief science officer, Dr. Lena Maris, leaned over her station. "It's as if their technology manipulates the quantum fabric. They weaponize entropy itself." Ava exhaled slowly. "Then they're not just fighting to conquer. They want to unmake us." The human dreadnought had been retrofitted with Concord technology since its arrival, but it still carried Earth's battle-hardened grit, thick armor, redundant shield generators, and weapon systems tested in countless skirmishes along Earth's colonial frontiers. Yet nothing could prepare her crew for the kind of war the Paxari waged. As the Indomitable moved into its first patrol sector, Ava's neural link bust. "Incoming secure transmission, Captain, from the Galactic Council." She tapped the console and opened the channel. Varn Ethral's hologram appeared, stern, grave, but resolved. "Captain Thorne, we have new intelligence. The Paxari do not fight alone." Ava's brow furrowed. "Explain." "There is evidence that the Paxari command a network of sentient war machines, autonomous drones of unimaginable lethality. They are called the Wraiths. They follow no Concord code. They are programmable annihilation, artificial intelligence, far beyond your understanding," Varn said. "And they are expanding their influence. We believe their source to be a hidden Paxari fortress within the Zalneth Nebula." Ava looked at her tactical officer, Lieutenant Koran. "Plot a course. We're going in." The Indomitable accelerated, slipping into faster-than-light drive toward the nebula, a swirling mass of ionized gases and cosmic dust, known for its lethal radiation storms and gravitational anomalies. It was a natural fortress, perfect for hiding something ancient and deadly. As the ship entered the nebula's outer edges, the sensors went haywire. Static hissed across the consoles, readings flickered, and the crew felt a sudden, oppressive weight in the pit of their stomachs. Magnetic interference off the charts, Karan reported. We're losing comms. Optical sensors are compromised. Ava gritted her teeth. Reduce speed. Switch to inertial navigation. Manual override. Captain, there's movement detected ahead, the tactical officer warned. Multiple small signatures, not standard ship transponders. Ava's eyes sharpened. Prepare weapons. Shield emitters at full. If these are wraiths, they won't hesitate. Suddenly, the Indomitable was surrounded by dozens of black specks, stealth drones shaped like jagged shards of obsidian, their surfaces absorbing all light. The ship's scanners registered their approach, but couldn't lock weapons effectively due to the interference. Targeting systems compromised, Karan shouted. They're jamming our sensors. Deploy countermeasures, Ava ordered. Activate close-range pulse emitters. Engage manual turret control. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos. Turret crews switched to visual targeting. Engineers rerouted power to shield generators. The specs closed in, silent and relentless. Ava stared at the main viewport as a wave of black shards surged forward. They're like swarming shadows, she muttered. The first impact tore through the Indomitable's force shield. The ship lurched violently as energy cascades hammered the hull. Alarms blared. Damage report, Ava demanded. We've lost primary sensor arrays, the tactical officer said. Hull integrity dropping at Sector 4. Ava clenched her fists. Focus on keeping the engines online. We need to break their formation. Karan nodded, fingers flying over the console. The Indomitable surged forward, ramming through the swarm. Pulse emitters flared, and several drones disintegrated in bursts of antimatter. But more took their place. The bridge trembled again as the ship shuddered under successive strikes. Then, unexpectedly, the black swarm began to withdraw, retreating back into the nebulous shadows. Sorry, warcraft do not retreat, Ava said thoughtfully. Something's changed. A low rumble echoed through the ship. The deck beneath their feet vibrated ominously. Captain, energy readings spiking in Sector 7, Karan reported. There's a massive energy source, too large to be a natural phenomenon. Ava's heart quickened. Could it be their fortress? Likely, Karan confirmed, and it's powering some kind of weapon. The Indomitable moved cautiously, sensors struggling to penetrate the nebula's thick ion clouds. The crew watched in silence as a gigantic silhouette emerged on the main screen, a titanic spire of black crystal, jutting from a barren asteroid core, surrounded by a field of pulsating energy. This is their heart, Ava said, voice barely above a whisper. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her mind, not through any neural implant or communication device, but a whisper, ancient and alien. You cannot win. We are entropy. We are the end. Ava staggered, the voice pounding inside her head. The Paxari weren't just machines or conquerors. They were something else, something primal. The tactical officer swore under his breath. Captain, the Wraiths are reactivating the fortress defenses. Automated turrets flared to life around the crystalline spire, beams of dark energy slicing through the nebulous haze. Ava squared her shoulders. Battle stations. We're going in. The Indomitable and its small fleet charged the fortress, a desperate push to disrupt the Paxari's war machine before it could spread further devastation. In the chaos of the assault, Ava caught a glimpse of the deeper truth. These ancient conquerors weren't just returning to reclaim lost territory. They were here to reset the cosmos, and humanity was the unexpected line drawn in the sand. The battle at the Zalneth Nebula had been a nightmare writ large across the stars. The Indomitable had barely escaped with its hull scorched and shields faltering. The Wraiths, relentless as shadows, had forced a brutal retreat. And yet, in the silence after the storm, Captain Ava Thorne knew the true horror was only just beginning. The Galactic Concorde's fleets were shattered. Outposts across several sectors were lost. Communication blackouts spread like wildfire. Panic was infecting the heart of the peacekeeping alliance. Ava sat alone in the command module of the Indomitable, staring out at the distant swirling gases of the nebula, the ghostly tomb of countless stars and civilizations. Her fingers tapped an anxious rhythm against the console. Status report, she demanded, voice steady though her mind reeled. Lieutenant Karan's voice crackled over the comm. Shields are stable but weakened. Hull breach is patched temporarily. We lost 23 crew in the assault. Sensor arrays are still offline. We're blind to any new threats in the nebula's inner sectors. How long until full sensor restoration? At least 6 cycles, Captain. Ava swallowed hard. That was time they didn't have. The galaxy had never felt so small and vulnerable. Across the ship, human and Concord personnel alike moved with grim purpose, repairing what they could, preparing for the inevitable next strike. But morale was slipping. The once unshakable faith in the Concord's unity was fraying. She reached for the neural uplink and summoned Varn Ethral's hollow message, recorded just hours earlier from the Concord Council. The Arbiter's visage flickered into view, his calm voice laced with urgency. The Paxari have shattered our peace. Their return heralds an era unlike any we have known. Our defenses are inadequate. We face extinction if we do not unify, and if we do not adapt. Ava leaned forward, her mind racing. The Paxari were no longer distant legends or relics of war. They were the spearhead of annihilation itself. Her comm buzzed again, this time with a secure Earth channel. Captain Thorne, came the voice of General Marcus Rain, commander of Earth's Unified Defense Force. We've been monitoring your engagement at Zalnath. Situation is critical. The Earth Coalition is mobilizing all fleets to support the Concord. You have full authorization to coordinate joint operations. Ava nodded, though the general couldn't see her. Understood, General. We need to move fast. The Paxari won't stop at a single nebula. Agreed. We're dispatching the Ash March and Black Veil as reinforcements. ETA, 2 cycles. Her gaze shifted to the bridge viewport. The nebula's dark clouds swirled ominously, like the breath of a cosmic beast preparing to strike again. Suddenly, alarms blared, a cascading series of emergency alerts. Multiple contacts detected, Captain. Karan shouted. Wraith drone swarms approaching from Vector 092. Ava's hand tightened on the console. Battle stations, she ordered, voice ringing with renewed authority. The crew scrambled, manning weapons, sealing bulkheads, and powering energy shields. The Wraiths were returning faster, more coordinated, and more lethal. Outside, through the reinforced viewport, Ava glimpsed the approaching swarm, hundreds of black shards weaving a deadly dance through the nebula's mists. The Indomitable's pulse emitters flared to life, blasting volleys of charged antimatter. Drones exploded in showers of dark energy, but the swarm pressed on relentlessly. Shields at 50%. Karan reported. Hull breaches at Sector 6 and 8. The ship shook violently. Ava gritted her teeth as warning lights flooded the bridge. We can't hold much longer, she said, voice tight. Suddenly, a new sensor spike, a massive energy surge unlike any before. A shadow larger than any drone loomed near the nebula's edge. Captain, unidentified capital ship emerging, the tactical officer reported. Ava's pulse quickened. Describe. Unknown configuration. Black crystalline hull. Emits the same energy signature as the Paxari fortress. Her stomach dropped. It's a warship. The Paxari have rebuilt their fleet. The Wraith shifted formation, retreating to protect their new asset. Ava acted swiftly. All hands. Focus fire on the capital ship's exposed weapon arrays. We must disable it before it can fully deploy. The battle escalated. The Indomitable and its small Concord escort pushed themselves to the limit. But the Paxari warship unleashed waves of energy that shredded shields and twisted metal like paper. Damage report, Ava demanded. Critical systems failing. Engines at 30%. We're losing maneuverability. Karan shouted. The captain knew the truth. They would not survive long unless reinforcements arrived. In the midst of chaos, her neural uplink buzzed again. This time, the message was not from the Concord or Earth. It was a transmission from deep within the nebula, encoded in an archaic human frequency. Captain Thorne, the distorted voice said, this is Dr. Elijah Voss. I am trapped inside the Paxari fortress. I have uncovered the secret to their technology. They use quantum entanglement to destabilize matter itself, a weapon that unravels the fabric of existence. Ava's heart pounded. Dr. Voss was the leading xenophysicist from Earth's Secretive Research Division, missing since the initial scouting mission into the nebula weeks ago. What do you need? Doctor, she responded quickly. Disable the core stabilizers. It will disrupt their weapon systems but will trigger a chain reaction. You must evacuate immediately after. I'm initiating a self-destruct protocol as a last resort." Ava stared at the message. The stakes had never been higher. "Understood," she said. "We'll move fast." As the battle raged, the Indomitable's crew prepared for a covert insertion mission. Ava selected a strike team of the best soldiers, human Marines trained in zero-G combat, and seasoned Concord operatives skilled in stealth and sabotage. The plan was desperate. Breach the Paxari fortress, plant charges on the quantum core, and escape before annihilation. She looked to Lieutenant Karan. "Prepare the shuttle. We go in on my mark." "Copy that, Captain." The bridge trembled as another wave of Wraith drones hit. But Ava's mind was already racing ahead to the dark crystal spire looming like a black monolith in the nebula's swirling depths. This was the edge of extinction, the final line before the universe itself could unravel, and humanity would be the key to holding it. Ava squared her shoulders. "We fight, not just for survival, but for the future." The shuttle detached from the Indomitable with a silent jolt, slipping into the eerie shadows of the Zalneth Nebula. Captain Ava Thorne sat rigidly in the pilot's seat, her eyes fixed on the vast crystalline fortress ahead. It rose like a dark monolith from the heart of the nebula, jagged black spires twisting against the swirling ion clouds. This was the source of the Paxari's destructive power, the quantum core that Dr. Elijah Voss had warned about. The shuttle's hull shuddered as it pierced the nebula's turbulent gas, the external sensors barely able to keep a lock on the fortress's outline. The atmosphere was thick with static interference and an almost palpable sense of danger. Ava glanced back at the strike team assembled behind her, 6 of the most skilled Concord and human operatives, clad in adaptive stealth armor and equipped with the latest energy weaponry. Among them was Lieutenant Karan, the tactical officer whose calm precision had saved the Indomitable more times than she could count. "Remember," Ava said quietly, "our mission is to disable the quantum core stabilizers and initiate the self-destruct sequence. Dr. Voss is counting on us to stop the Paxari's weapon before it can be unleashed again. We breach fast, strike hard, and get out. No heroics." Koran nodded, fingers tightening around his pulse rifle. "Understood. We'll cover each other." The shuttle glided through the outer defenses undetected, a feat made possible by the nebula's natural electromagnetic storms that masked their approach. But as they drew closer, the true scale of the fortress revealed itself. Towering crystalline towers pulsed with an ominous dark energy, casting shifting shadows that seemed almost alive. The shuttle's autopilot brought them to a halt at an airlock carved into the base of one of the spires. The doors hissed open, releasing a hiss of supercooled gas and a faint whiff of burnt ozone. "Suit up," Ava commanded. "Environmental systems are offline inside." Each operator sealed their helmets and engaged their rebreathers as they filed into the fortress's cold, dimly lit corridors. The walls were smooth but alien, black crystal veins pulsing softly beneath a translucent surface, as if the entire structure was a living organism. "Keep comms silent," Karan whispered. "No transmissions unless absolutely necessary." Ava nodded. "Stay sharp. These corridors are crawling with Wraith sentinels." They advanced cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the reflective surfaces. The silence was oppressive, broken only by distant hums and the subtle vibrations coursing through the crystalline walls. Suddenly, the corridor ahead flickered as a trio of Wraith sentinels materialized, sleek, shadow-like machines armed with energy blades that shimmered with deadly precision. "Contact!" Koran hissed, raising his rifle. The team opened fire, pulse rounds sizzling against the sentinel's armor. The machines moved with unnatural speed, dodging and striking in perfect coordination. One sentinel slashed through the air, narrowly missing Ava as she dove aside. The fight was brutal and swift. The strike team's training showed, each member covering the other, exploiting the sentinel's momentary weaknesses until the machines shattered into shards of dark energy. Breathing heavily, Ava signaled to move forward. They navigated deeper into the labyrinthine fortress, encountering traps and automated defenses designed to thwart any intruder. Force fields shimmered in doorways, turrets tracked their movements, and gravity well shifted unpredictably. "We're closing in on the core chamber," Karan reported. "Sensors picking up massive energy fluctuations just ahead." Ava's heart pounded. The quantum core was near. Suddenly, the corridor opened into a vast chamber, a cathedral of black crystal, dominated by a swirling orb of raw energy suspended in midair. It pulsed rhythmically, feeding a network of crystalline conduits that spread like veins through the fortress. "This is it," Ava whispered. The core radiated a strange, dissonant hum that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. She activated her neural uplink and transmitted a secure channel to the Indomitable. "This is Captain Thorne. We've located the quantum core. Beginning the destabilization sequence." Back aboard the dreadnought, Dr. Elijah Voss's voice crackled in her ear. "Good. You have exactly 15 minutes before the fortress goes into lockdown. After that, escape routes will be sealed." Ava acknowledged and turned to the team. "Set charges on the stabilizers. Karan, cover us." The team spread out, planting powerful energy disruptors at key points along the conduits feeding the core. Each placement sent ripples of instability through the chamber. But then, the entire fortress trembled violently. An alarm blared, echoing through the crystalline halls. "They detected us," Karan shouted. Wraith reinforcements inbound. Through the swirling shadows at the chamber's edges, a wave of black, crystalline war machines emerged. Massive, spider-like constructs armed with energy cannons and razor-sharp legs. The strike team readied for a desperate last stand. "Charges set," Ava confirmed, breathless. "Let's move." The team sprinted back through the corridors, dodging blasts and collapsing walls. The fortress's self-defense mechanisms flared, sealing doors behind them and triggering cascading energy surges. Ava's suit HUD flickered warnings as her systems struggled against the fortress's quantum distortions. Almost to the extraction point, Karan called out, "We're losing time." Outside, the shuttle waited, its engines humming softly in the nebula's mist. But as the team burst through the airlock, a massive shockwave rattled the shuttle and the entire nebula. Behind them, the fortress's core destabilized violently, the self-destruct sequence triggering a cascade of quantum disintegration. "Get aboard, now," Ava commanded. They scrambled into the shuttle just as the black crystal spire began to fracture and implode, sending shards of energy and debris spiraling into the void. The shuttle roared to life and rocketed away from the collapsing fortress. Ava watched the destruction in awe and dread. The Paxari's weapon was no more, but the cost was immense. "We bought the galaxy time," she said softly, "but the war isn't over." The nebula's mist swallowed the remnants of the fortress, but Ava knew the Paxari were still out there, in the shadows, waiting, evolving. Her mind drifted to Dr. Voss's final message before contact was lost. The Paxari's true goal isn't conquest. It's reset, to unmake and remake reality itself. We're the line they cannot cross. Ava gripped the console tightly. The edge of extinction was behind them. The fight for the future had only just begun. The Indomitable limped back into friendly space, a battered but unbroken testament to humanity's resilience. The destruction of the Paxari fortress had dealt a critical blow to the enemy's arsenal, but Captain Ava Thorne knew better than to celebrate. The war was far from over. If anything, it was entering a new and more dangerous phase. The Galactic Concord and Earth's fleets were regrouping, their fractured forces gathering to plan a counteroffensive. But the wounds ran deep. Many sectors were still under Paxari control, entire star systems isolated, and countless lives lost. The psychological toll weighed heavily on the survivors. Ava stepped onto the Concord flagship, the Elysium, its corridors humming with urgency and determination. The council chambers were packed with leaders from across the galaxy, human, alien, and hybrid alike, each bearing scars of recent battles but united by a singular purpose: resistance. Captain Thorne greeted Admiral Lyra Kalin, a stern but fair human veteran with icy blue eyes that betrayed a lifetime of warfare. "Your success at the Zalneth Nebula has inspired many, but the Council demands answers. How do we stop the Paxari before they can rebuild?" Ava took a deep breath. "We have a short window of opportunity." The fortress's destruction slowed their advance, but did not end it. Their technology, though devastating, is not fully understood. We need to leverage what Dr. Voss uncovered, the quantum destabilization effect. Admiral Kalin nodded thoughtfully. And we need to develop countermeasures, technology that can stabilize quantum fields and protect our ships and stations. But more importantly, we need intelligence, detailed knowledge of the Paxari's command structure and their strategic goals. A murmur spread through the chamber. Information was the rarest and most valuable resource in this war. Captain, spoke Counselor Tgar, a Paxari defector whose sharp mandibles betrayed his alien origins. My people have suffered under their rule too. I can provide access to hidden networks, underground resistance cells still fighting within occupied territories. The room fell silent. Ava studied Carr carefully. The defector's presence was controversial, but his knowledge invaluable. We need allies, she said, and we need hope. The Council approved the formation of a joint task force dedicated to intelligence gathering and resistance coordination. Ava was appointed as its field commander. A new mission. Back aboard the Indomitable, Ava convened her senior officers. Among them was Lieutenant Karan, now promoted to Chief Tactical Officer, and Dr. Serena Voss, niece of the missing scientist, who had joined the mission to carry on her uncle's work. Our objective is to establish contact with resistance cells on the frontier worlds. Ava briefed them. These groups have vital intel on Paxari movements and weaknesses. We'll also seek out survivors who can join the fight. Serena adjusted her glasses, excitement flickering in her eyes despite the grim circumstances. I've been analyzing residual quantum signatures from the fortress detonation. There's a pattern, a kind of pulse that could be used to detect Paxari communication channels. Koran grunted approvingly. If we can intercept their signals, we can anticipate attacks before they happen. Ava nodded. Exactly. Time is our greatest enemy. Into the shadows. The Indomitable departed the Elysium under a cloak of stealth, slipping through war-torn systems that whispered of ruin and defiance. They arrived at Zephyrus, a former mining colony turned resistance hub hidden in the asteroid belts of the Neuralis sector. The station was a far cry from Concord's gleaming vessels, battered, jury-rigged, yet fiercely alive. Resistance fighters from dozens of species moved with purpose, repairing ships, sharing information, and training new recruits. Ava disembarked and was greeted by Commander Alaravas, a fierce woman with a cybernetic arm and a reputation for fearless leadership. Welcome to Zephyrus, Alara said with a wry smile. You're just in time for a war council. The resistance leaders gathered in a cramped chamber lit by flickering holoscreens. Maps of occupied territories, Paxari movements, and sensor grids covered every surface. The Paxari's grip tightens, Alara warned. They deployed new patrols that use adaptive cloaking and disrupt our comms. We lose ground daily. Serena stepped forward, displaying holographic data. Their quantum destabilization weapon is evolving, but so are we. I've developed a prototype device that can stabilize localized quantum fields, blocking their interference in small areas. Ava's eyes lit up. This could protect our comms and shields during attacks, but we'll need to test it in the field. The cost of resistance. The mission to test the prototype was clear but perilous. A small team, including Ava, Koran, and Serena, would infiltrate a recently captured Paxari outpost on the planet Valaris. The outpost was a strategic relay station for enemy communications. Destroying or disabling it could cripple their coordination in the sector. As the Indomitable descended through Valaris's hazy atmosphere, Ava felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle over her. The stakes had never been higher. Inside the outpost, shadows shifted with unnatural speed. The team moved silently through dim corridors, the prototype device humming softly as it emitted a stabilizing field. Suddenly, alarms blared. Compromised. Karan shouted, firing at advancing wraith drones. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The stabilizer held, disrupting the drone's quantum interference and giving the team precious seconds to respond. But the outpost's self-destruct sequence began, triggered by the enemy as a last defense. Extraction, Ava ordered urgently. They raced through collapsing tunnels, dodging blasts and energy surges. Outside, the Indomitable's shuttle awaited. The team scrambled aboard just as the outpost exploded in a brilliant flash, shaking the planet's surface. A glimmer of hope. Back on the Indomitable, as Valaris receded behind them, Ava looked at her weary but determined crew. "We're learning," she said quietly. "Every victory, every loss, teaches us how to fight smarter, not just harder." Serena smiled faintly. The prototype worked. With refinement, it could turn the tide. Ava nodded. "And with allies like the Resistance, we have a fighting chance." But the shadows of the nebula still loomed. The Paxari would return, stronger and more ruthless. "Echoes of resistance," Ava whispered. "We are the spark in the darkness." The war was far from over, but for the first time in months, hope burned bright. The war against the Paxari had become a shadow dance of espionage, sabotage, and shifting alliances. Every victory was shadowed by whispers of betrayal and the unsettling knowledge that the enemy was not only outside the fleet, but also hiding within. Captain Ava Thorne sat alone in the dimly lit command deck of the Indomitable, the galaxy sprawling on the holomap before her. Despite recent successes with the Resistance and the prototype stabilizer, a creeping unease gnawed at her. The Paxari's technology was evolving faster than anyone expected, and worse, someone inside the Galactic Concord was leaking vital intelligence. It had started with small anomalies, operations compromised, fleets ambushed before they could react, encrypted messages intercepted moments after transmission. The Council had initially dismissed the possibility of a mole, but Ava was certain. The Paxari's reach had stretched inside their own ranks. Her suspicions were confirmed when Lieutenant Coran approached, his expression grim. "Captain," he said quietly, "we intercepted a transmission, not from the Paxari, but from one of our own. Someone within the Concord is feeding them data on our movements and technology." Ava's eyes narrowed. "Who? We don't know yet. The encryption is sophisticated. Not even our best cryptographers can break it." The tension in the command room was palpable as Ava relayed the situation to Dr. Serena Voss and the senior officers. "We're dealing with an enemy who wears our face," Serena said, frowning. "They could be anywhere. A high-ranking official, a technician, even someone on the front line." Ava slammed her fist on the table. "Then we root them out. No more secrets, no more shadows. We find the traitor before they bring us down. The investigation begins." Ava assembled a special investigative unit, a mix of security experts, cryptographers, and field operatives led by Coran and supported by Serena's scientific expertise. They began by analyzing every recent communication breach, cross-referencing data points, and monitoring suspicious activities across the fleet and Concord's command centers. Their first break came from an unexpected source, Tar, the Paxari defector, who warned of a clandestine faction within the enemy's own ranks. "The Paxari are ruthless, but not all serve their warlords willingly," he explained. "Some seek power through chaos, factions that could be allied with traitors in your ranks." The revelation complicated the hunt. Not only was there a mole, but there were multiple layers of betrayal, a shadow network feeding information to both sides. Ava's team worked tirelessly, scanning biometric logs, hacking into secure archives, and interrogating prisoners captured during recent battles. The traitor revealed. Weeks of relentless investigation led to a shocking discovery. A senior intelligence officer aboard the Elysium, Counselor Melis Vorn, had been compromised. Her motivations were murky, tangled between fear, ambition, and a warped ideology that saw the Paxari as the next step in galactic evolution. Confronted with evidence, Melis didn't deny her actions. Instead, she spoke coldly of a new order where only the strongest and most adaptable would survive. "I'm not your enemy," she said, voice steady but chilling. "The Paxari offer evolution, not destruction. You fight a war you cannot win." Ava's jaw tightened. "You're betraying everything we stand for." Melis smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but history remembers the victors, not the fools clinging to the past." The council detained Melis, but the damage was done. Security protocols were overhauled, but Ava knew the betrayal had shaken the trust within their ranks. Shadows within and without. The revelation forced a sobering truth. The war was not only fought against the Paxari, but against the darkness growing inside their own side. Ava took this to heart as she led the Indomitable on a critical mission to secure a vital resource depot on the planet Cressida, a supply hub for Concord forces on the front line. The planet's surface was scarred by previous battles, a testament to the relentless back and forth with Paxari forces. Ava's team moved with precision, aware that any misstep could be fatal. But the mission went awry almost immediately. As they secured the depot, sabotage destroyed critical supplies, and an ambush nearly wiped out the landing party. The attackers used the same tactics and technology as the Paxari, but Ava suspected someone on the inside had betrayed their position. Trust shattered, resolve hardened. Back on the Indomitable, tensions ran high. The crew questioned their leadership and each other. Ava called an emergency meeting. "We cannot afford doubt or fear," she declared. "We will root out every traitor, every spy, but we will also stand united. Our greatest strength is not just technology or weapons, it's trust. Without it, we fall." Koran added, "We must be vigilant, but not blind. We cannot let suspicion turn us against ourselves." Serena, working late into the night, discovered a clue hidden in the sabotage data, a unique quantum signature that pointed to an unknown faction operating in the Outer Rim. Not Passari, but something else entirely. Ava's mind raced. Was there a third force manipulating both sides? The possibility was terrifying. The unseen threat. The chapter closed with Ava gazing out at the stars from the Indomitable's observation deck. The war had grown beyond anything they imagined, a tangled web of enemies known and unknown, allies and traitors, shadows and light. Ava whispered to herself, "The hidden enemy isn't just the Paxari. It's the doubt, the fear, and the secrets we carry within." The fight for the future demanded more than courage. It demanded clarity, unity, and unyielding will. The war against the Paxari was no longer fought only in the open. Battles raging across planets and starships. It had spread to a more insidious arena, the silent, invisible front of espionage, sabotage, and covert operations. This was the war where shadows thrived, where trust was a rare commodity, and where even the smallest misstep could cost countless lives. Captain Ava Thorne had faced many challenges since the outbreak of hostilities. Yet nothing unsettled her more than the knowledge that the enemy could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning, and from behind the veil of invisibility, quiet before the storm. The Indomitable had been assigned a critical mission to infiltrate the Paxari's hidden research station deep inside the uncharted Vela expanse, a region so cloaked in cosmic radiation and nebular fog that even the most advanced sensors struggled to pierce its shroud. This station was believed to be the epicenter of the Paxari's latest technological advancements, new weapons, stealth systems, and perhaps most dangerous of all, experiments related to the quantum destabilization effect that had threatened entire fleets. Ava knew the risks. The station was heavily guarded by advanced drones, cloaked sentries, and automated defenses powered by the very technology humanity was racing to understand. Preparing the infiltration. The infiltration team was a hand-picked squad of experts, field operatives, hackers, and scientists, each selected for their unique skills. Leading the team was Lieutenant Koran, whose tactical acumen had saved them more times than Ava could count. Serena Voss, the brilliant physicist, was indispensable, providing real-time analysis of the station's quantum signals and guiding the team through the labyrinth of technological traps. Before departure, Ava gathered the team in the briefing room aboard the Indomitable. "This is the silent front," Ava said, her voice steady but firm. "We won't have the advantage of overwhelming firepower or reinforcements. Success depends on stealth, speed, and precision. Our mission: gather intel, disrupt their experiments, and get out without alerting the entire Paxari fleet." Koran added, "This will be the most dangerous mission we've faced. The enemy knows the importance of this station and will defend it fiercely." Serena nodded. "But if we can disable their quantum destabilization tech, we can shift the balance of power." Into the shadows, the Indomitable slipped through the nebular fog, its hull coated with adaptive stealth plating that rendered it nearly invisible to enemy scanners. As they approached the station, sensors flickered with the telltale signs of quantum interference, a chaotic signature that masked the station's presence in space. Koran led the insertion team in stealth pods, each pod designed to avoid detection and navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the station. Inside, the atmosphere was eerie, silent but thick with tension. Flickering lights and distant mechanical hums echoed through vast chambers filled with alien machinery. The team moved cautiously, disabling security drones and hacking control nodes to access encrypted files. Serena's console beeped. "I'm detecting experimental power surges. This must be where they're running their quantum destabilization tests." Suddenly, an alarm blared. Their presence triggered a hidden sensor. "Compromise," Quran ordered. "Fall back to extraction." The escape. The infiltration team raced through the station's corridors, pursued by swarms of drones that shimmered in and out of visibility, their cloaking tech powered by the very quantum fields the team sought to disrupt. Serena activated the prototype stabilizer device, creating a temporary safe zone where the drone's cloaking and interference failed. "Keep moving," Ava shouted, coordinating the evacuation. In the chaos, they managed to upload critical data, blueprints, experiment logs, and evidence of the Paxari's true intentions. But the station's core reactor began destabilizing, a failsafe to prevent data theft. "Time's running out," Koran yelled. "We need to get off this rock before it goes critical." The team scrambled to the pods just as the station erupted in a blinding explosion, sending shockwaves through the nebula. Unveiling the truth. Back aboard the Indomitable, Serena worked feverishly to decrypt the stolen data. What they uncovered was chilling. The Paxari were developing a new generation of weapons, quantum disruptors capable of severing the very fabric of space-time around their targets, rendering entire fleets helpless in moments. Worse, the research showed that the Paxari had discovered how to manipulate the human neural network, an experimental weapon that could control minds or induce mass psychosis. Ava's heart pounded. The stakes had just escalated beyond anything they had imagined. Rallying the allies. With this new intelligence, Ava convened an emergency council with the Galactic Concord leaders and resistance representatives. "This is a threat not just to our fleets, but to the very minds and souls of our people," Ava warned. "We must accelerate our research and unite all factions against this." Tar, the Paxari defector, spoke grimly. "There are others like me, Paxari, who fear what their leaders have become. We can help, but time is running out." The council agreed to pool resources, share intelligence, and prepare for a decisive counterattack. The silent front rages on. As the chapter closed, Ava stood on the Indomitable's observation deck, gazing into the nebula's swirling mists. The silent front was a battleground of minds and machines, secrets and shadows. Victory would require more than weapons. It demanded courage to face the unknown, unity to withstand betrayal, and a will to shine a light into the darkest corners of the war. The war was far from over, but humanity's spirit burned brighter than ever. The Galactic Concord was on the brink. The stakes had never been higher, and the war against the Paxari had stretched every resource, every ounce of courage, and every shred of hope. Yet, amid the chaos, Captain Ava Thorne and her team were preparing for what could be the decisive strike, the final gambit to turn the tide of a seemingly endless war. Preparing for the ultimate strike. The intelligence stolen from the Paxari's research station had revealed not only their new quantum weapons, but also their Achilles heel, the energy core powering their flagship, the Overmind, a massive dreadnought serving as both command center and war engine. The Overmind was the brain of the Paxari war machine, coordinating fleet movements, managing defenses, and amplifying their devastating quantum disruptors. Its destruction would cripple the Paxari's offensive capabilities and buy the Concord precious time to rebuild and reclaim lost territory. But the Overmind was hidden deep within the hostile system of Nearest Prime, protected by layers of automated defenses, elite Paxari fleets, and an unstable quantum field that scrambled sensors and communications. rallying the fleet. Captain Ava Thorne stood before the assembled leaders of the Galactic Concord and the resistance forces in the command hall of the Indomitable. The room was tense, filled with commanders, scientists, diplomats, and soldiers, each bearing the wear of endless conflict but burning with fierce determination. "This is our moment," Ava began, her voice steady and commanding. "The Overmind is vulnerable, but only if we strike as one. This is not a simple raid. It is a coordinated assault requiring precision, courage, and sacrifice. We cannot afford failure." Tar, the Paxari defector, stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "I know the defenses of the Overmind. They are formidable, but not impenetrable. We will strike at their weak points, exploiting the chaos of the quantum field." Serena Voss added, "Our scientists have refined the prototype stabilizer. We can temporarily neutralize the quantum disruptions around the flagship, allowing our ships to navigate and engage effectively. But the window will be brief." The strategy was daring and complex. A multi-pronged attack involving stealth bombers, electronic warfare teams, and a strike force led by the Indomitable itself. The stealth bombers, equipped with new cloaking technology, would infiltrate the outer defense rings and target the energy conduits feeding the Overmind's shields. Electronic warfare teams would jam communications and disrupt the flagship's sensor arrays. Finally, the Indomitable and its strike group would penetrate the weakened defenses and deliver the decisive blow directly to the energy core. Into the maelstrom, the fleet entered the nearest prime system, navigating through asteroid fields and the swirling quantum mist that distorted space and time. The tension on the bridge of the Indomitable was palpable. Every sensor ping, every flicker on the holomap could mean the difference between success and annihilation. Ava's voice cut through the tension. "Stealth bombers, proceed with the attack. Electronic teams, commence jamming. Strike group, hold position." The silent shadows of the bombers slipped past the outer defenses, releasing their payloads with surgical precision. Explosions rippled through the shield generators, sending shockwaves through the Paxari fleet. The electronic warfare teams unleashed a storm of interference, blinding sensors and severing command links. The heart of the beast. With the defenses crippled, the Indomitable led the strike group into the heart of the Overmind's fortress. But the flagship was not defenseless. From the void emerged swarms of drones, shimmering with energy and cloaked in the chaotic quantum field. The battle was fierce. Ships danced through a deadly ballet of fire and counterfire, shields flaring and weapons blazing. Ava piloted the Indomitable with unmatched skill, weaving through the drone swarms while coordinating the attack. The final push. Inside the flagship, Kuran led a boarding party tasked with reaching the energy core and planting explosives. Navigating the labyrinthine corridors, they faced fierce resistance from Paxari soldiers and automated defenses. As the countdown to detonation ticked down, Kuran transmitted a final message. Core destabilizing. Extraction imminent. Sacrifice and victory. The boarding party barely escaped the explosion as the energy core detonated, engulfing the Overmind in a blinding light. The flagship began to collapse, its systems failing and the quantum field dissipating. The Paxari fleet faltered, their commands severed, retreating into the dark void. Aftermath. Back aboard the Indomitable, the crew celebrated the hard-won victory, but Ava knew the war was not over. "We've won a crucial battle," she said, "but peace will require more than weapons. It will take understanding, resilience, and unity." Carr looked out at the stars, hopeful. Maybe now, there's a chance for a future beyond war. Ava smiled, determination burning in her eyes. "For humanity, and for all who seek peace, we will fight on." The explosion of the Overmind had shattered the Paxari's grip on the war. Their flagship, the symbol of their might and terror, was gone, reduced to drifting shards of metal and fractured energy fields. But the battle had only carved a narrow path to peace, not guaranteed it. Now, the challenge was to forge a future from the ashes of conflict. The calm after the storm. The Galactic Concord fleet, battered but victorious, had gathered near the orbit of nearest prime. The silence that had settled over the battlefield was eerie, a stark contrast to the roaring chaos that had filled space only hours before. Captain Ava Thorne stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, gazing at the nebula-draped planet below. Her crew moved with a quiet urgency, patching ships, tending to the wounded, and preparing for what would come next. The war was not yet over. Paxari forces scattered across distant systems still resisted, and old wounds ran deep. But the destruction of the Overmind was a powerful symbol, a turning point that both sides would remember. A fragile peace. The Galactic Concord had convened a peace summit on the neutral world of Lyra Station, a gleaming hub floating on the edge of explored space. Representatives from countless species, including the battered Paxari factions, gathered in the sprawling assembly halls. Ava found herself sitting across from Tkar, the Paxari defector who had become an unlikely ambassador for reconciliation. Their shared experiences, fighting side by side and witnessing the devastation wrought by war, had forged a bond stronger than many diplomatic treaties. "We stand at the edge of a new era," Ava said, her voice measured but hopeful. "If we cannot find a way to coexist, everything we fought for will have been in vain." Tar nodded solemnly. The old leadership fractured under the weight of its own ambition. But the Paxari people deserve better, and so do all of us. The negotiations were difficult, filled with mistrust, accusations, and moments of doubt. But beneath the surface, a tentative hope began to grow. The realization dawned that peace required more than ceasefires. It demanded understanding, compromise, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Healing old wounds. Back on the Indomitable, Ava reflected on the human cost of the war. She walked through the medical bay, where doctors and medics worked tirelessly. Survivors from both sides lay side by side, their injuries stark reminders that war spared no one. Serena Voss approached, holding a data pad filled with environmental reports. The planets ravaged by this conflict need immediate aid. Ecosystems destabilized, populations displaced. Ava's expression hardened with resolve. Rebuilding won't be easy, but we owe it to those who suffered to try. The Indomitable's crew began organizing relief missions, delivering food, medical supplies, and technology to shattered colonies. Engineers and scientists joined forces with local communities to restore infrastructure and stabilize ecosystems. The challenge of unity. Despite the peace talks and rebuilding efforts, the path ahead was fraught with tension. Many within the Galactic Concord feared the Paxari might regroup and retaliate. Others argued that humanity's leadership role in the war should translate into greater influence over the new galactic order. Still, voices from smaller factions called for equal representation and caution against dominance by any single species. Ava addressed the Concord Council, advocating for unity. "We cannot rebuild fractured alliances if we replace one tyranny with another. True peace will require balance, respect, and shared responsibility." Her words resonated with many, but the work was far from done. A vision for the future. In quieter moments, Ava found herself drawn to the stars, pondering what lay beyond the immediate struggles. Humanity had proven itself in ways many had doubted, through ingenuity, resilience, and compassion. But the galaxy was vast, filled with unknown wonders and threats. Tar visited her on the observation deck one evening. "You fought not just for victory, but for a chance to shape the future." Ava smiled faintly. "The real work begins now. We must build a legacy worth inheriting." Together, they looked outward, envisioning a galaxy where old enemies might become allies, and the scars of war would heal into stories of hope. The first steps toward lasting peace. The Galactic Concord established a new governing body, the Unity Council, comprised of representatives from all factions, dedicated to diplomacy, reconstruction, and shared defense. Joint scientific programs launched to study the mysteries of quantum technology, ensuring it could never again be weaponized to threaten entire civilizations. Education and cultural exchanges blossomed, breaking down barriers of fear and misunderstanding. A new dawn. As the Indomitable prepared to depart Lyra Station, Ava gathered her crew for a final briefing. "We fought through darkness and despair," she said, But our greatest victory is not the destruction of a warship or the winning of a battle. It is the choice to build something better." The crew nodded, united in purpose. Outside, the twin suns of Lyre Station rose, bathing the station and the galaxy beyond in warm, golden light. It was the dawn of a new era,